Hello and welcome back to the Legendary Leaders podcast. It's so good to have you here again with us as we are meeting another wonderful guest. And today's guest is someone who brings not only depth of experience in global leadership, but also has a deeply personal commitment to helping others live, lead, and grow with intention. Donzel Leggett is a former Fortune 200 executive who spent over 3 decades leading large, complex organizations across the globe. He's known for his visionary leadership, his ability to bring people together across cultures and continents, and for the courage with which he approaches transformation too. And that not just in business, but in life overall. Now, Donzel is the founder of Destiny Development Delta and the author of Make Your Destiny Happen, a book that weaves together his lived experience and leadership insights into a practical, honest model for personal transformation. It's not one of those just dream it and do it kinds of books. It's grounded, thoughtful, step-by-step framework that challenges you to lead yourself before leading others. And what I've really appreciated in our conversation is Donzel's ability to hold both sides of leadership, the drive and clarity it takes to lead well, and the inner work required to lead with authenticity. And we talk about designing your own life plan, about navigating doubt and pressure, about keeping your energy aligned with your purpose, and why none of that happens just by accident. He also shares moments from his own journey, some deeply personal ones, and I'm so grateful for the honesty and care he brings to this space here today. So whether you are at a turning point in your life, wondering what your next step looks like, or simply trying to show up with more intentionality in the day-to-day, I think this conversation will leave you with both insight and more clarity too. And as always, here's a question to sit with as you listen. If you were to take full ownership of your life, starting now, what would you do differently? And if this episode resonates and you'd like to go deeper, whether it's through coaching, mentoring, collaboration of any sort in this leadership space, feel free to reach out. You can get in touch with me directly at leaderspace@CathleenO'Sullivan.com. Or if you're a leader in a fast-paced tech scale-up, drop me a line at Kathleen@moji.co. But for now, let's dive in, enjoy this conversation. Hello and welcome to you. Good morning, I should say, actually.
Good afternoon to you, Kathleen.
Well, thank you so much. The anticipation for this conversation has been huge on my side because and you just said it before I hit the record button, we had a really cool, very authentic, lively pre-chat, and that was the start of building connection. And B, since we had this conversation, I was able to delve a little bit more into the work you are doing, the book that has been published by now as well. Mm-hmm. What I have said to a few guests before, and I mean it, is that you come into my life. We're having this conversation at a certain time that is interesting. And today you come into the show to talk about creating destiny, making sure, we live a purposeful life, and many, many other topics, I'm pretty sure. And that's exactly a topic I've been thinking about a lot today. So I can't wait to have this conversation.
Fantastic. I've been greatly anticipating this as well from the time we had our first pre-call. Again, I was saying before you hit the record button, you do such a great job of offering this platform to people, not only to help profile and bring awareness to guests, but more importantly, to serve the audience, which is all what we're really trying to do, is help everyone find, what is the key that they want to achieve in their life, as well as to make them as happy as they can be while doing that. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for putting this platform together and continuing to just keep making it happen and feed people, which is what we need. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And what I just said to you is every time somebody gives me a compliment or says something nice, I start to get frazzled. And my go-to reaction is let's move into the conversation. Let's focus on the questions and the chat. So let's do that. I would love to start to chat about creating our own destiny and following through right away. However, I would really like to start with your own journey, your own story that is, from my perspective, vast. And I want to say, give us an overview of your origin story that got you to where you are right now. Not sure if you are able to give us just an overview, but help us understand a little bit more about your background.
Yes, I'm originally from Key West, Florida. So I know you have global listeners. Most people know about Key West. It's a small island at the very tip of Florida, the southernmost point of the continental United States. Actually, it's closer to Cuba, the island of Cuba, than it is to Miami. So it's right there in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and I'll just say the Gulf. I'll just leave it at that. So that's where I'm from. Very unique place. Lots of different people from all around the world, different lifestyles. I grew up there around a lot of diversity, and it really helped sort of frame my thinking as a young person growing up. That everyone looks different, everyone talks different. I was around a lot of different languages, again, a lot of different lifestyles, but it showed me that people are people. You just have to get to know them. Everyone brings value. You can't judge people by their appearance or how they sound or things that you may have heard. Get to know them. And that was important for me as a future leader, someone who was going to lead myself, but someone who's also trying to uplift others, is understanding everyone has inherent goodness as individuals. And that shaped a lot of who I am. And I have a really great family. In the book, I talk about the three sort of role models I had in my life was my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mom. So strong women in our family. There are a lot of men in our family too, but the women really took the leadership role, and it was very clear. So I grew up seeing women as leaders, which again shaped my thinking that there's no such thing as men being leaders only, that no, women are leaders and they're the strongest ones. My great grandmother, she, didn't get a chance to go to high school. She had, very low level jobs. So same thing with my grandmother, yet they carried themselves with such strong self-confidence, and they tried to help as many people as possible, but they were not people that would play around when it came to your responsibilities. So I heard from my great grandmother so many times, nobody's better than you, but you're not better than anybody else. You need to work hard. I didn't have the chances you have. You better do something with it. So those things helped shape me. So from there, I ended up going to university and at a place called Purdue University. It's a big globally renowned university. I went to play American college football there. So I was a football player. I did well, but our team did not do that great. I did really well as an individual, but I learned later on that I'm just cutting this short, but I learned later on that a lot of my teammates looked up to me and saw me as a leader, but I didn't really take advantage of that and lead in a way I should have. I just thought I'm a good student. If I'm a good player and I'm just a role model, that's good enough. That's not good enough. I could have done more to make our team better. I didn't do that. So once I was done with playing and I started my career going forward, and I started realizing I can make a difference in people's lives. I could have, instead of going out and partying with my teammates, I could have said, guys, let's go watch film. Let's go work out some more. Let's go do things to make us better. That could have helped steer some of those guys whose lives did not go in a great direction later on. If I would have made those changes. So as I got in my career, I started thinking, what can I do to help people? What can I do to make some changes in people's lives and leverage the leadership I have? At the same time, I had some things happening in my life that said, I need to set my direction of where I want to go. So I built this life plan. And from the life plan, I started integrating a lot of the aspects of kind of creating my own destiny plan. But then how do I help change the direction of the places I'm working while at the same time getting great results, but impacting people's lives so that they feel better? that they're achieving more. And that really was the beginning of the Destiny Development Delta model that I write about in the book, Make Your Destiny Happen. But I'm married. You know, my wife and I've been married now 31 years. We have 4 grown children, so they're young adults. They're doing well. And I ended up working 32 years in industry, Fortune 200 size companies, and had a great career. But I retired from that corporate job last June, and started the next phase of my life, which actually was laid out in this life plan that I created when I was 24 years old. So that's kind of a quick thumbnail sketch of kind of who I am. And what I'd say is, again, my objective is to continue to live my life plan and my goals and my destiny. My destiny is all about driving successful awareness for people. Even if it's just one person in this world, if I can help that one person to understand what their destiny, what they want it to be, and to help them make it happen through this book. And if they can then influence one person, and that person influences one person, I feel like I've done what I've set out to do with this book. So anyway, that's a quick thumbnail sketch of me.
Well, very quick overview, and there was quite a lot in there that I would love to take apart a little bit, or at least zoom into.
Sure.
So, first of all, the word destiny.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm not alone that when I hear the word destiny, or at least this is how I used to see it, I thought of something that's defined by the universe or a bigger force, not something that we actually create and we can work towards. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around destiny and what helped you understand that it is something that you can shape and create for yourself.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think we're kind of taught, or it's kind of in the lexicon that just kind of gets embedded in our thought process that your destiny is predetermined. And then depending on the faith that you have, there's some faiths that kind of believe that. You know, I just never really believed that. And again, it was reinforced to me by, you know, seeing my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, and seeing where I was and knowing what they had gone through and that they persevered and continued to move themselves forward. Yet I knew the possibilities could be much different for me, but they kept making it clear to me, it's up to you. You know, I had that push from my family. They never used the word destiny, never used that word, but they continually push me that you have something special, do something with it. And I had other family members who I could see also had those opportunities, people I went to school with that also had talent, and they didn't do anything with it in some cases. And so I just had this thought process in my mind that it's really our agency. What are we going to do as individuals? That's really what it comes down to. What are we going to do as individuals? And so I just had this thought process. And so as my life started progressing, and I started seeing the consequence of decisions that I made that didn't go well and decisions I made that did go well, it just reinforced to me, it's up to me. Yeah, there's things that can happen. There's no question about that. We live in a crazy world. We get out, people, we always worried about all the things that could happen to me. We do the most dangerous thing every day that we take for granted, which is driving our cars. We drive every day and put our lives in the hands of millions of other people, and we never think twice about it. So my thought process is, hey, yeah, anything could happen, but I would rather, if something happens to me, I'm on track to a plan that I made, not some plan that's predetermined, my plan. I felt better knowing I had a plan and wasn't leaving it up to chance. It just made me feel better as in terms of my personal well-being to define, here's where I want to go, and start working towards it, and then start seeing some of these shorter timeline objectives and milestones being hit and seeing things work in that direction. And like I said, it feels better knowing you have a plan, knowing you have a direction, and knowing that you're on track to delivering against that. And so that's kind of what my thought process was. And that's why I want others to know it's not that your life is in someone else's hands. One of the things I talk about a lot is be the leader of your life. And when I use the word leader, I want everyone to know it doesn't matter whether you're a great podcast host like Cathleen. Yeah, it's clear she's a leader, right? You know, or me, where I was an executive at a big company. No, you could be a barber or a hairdresser and you're a leader. You could be a stay-at-home parent and you're a leader. You can be a carpenter and be a leader. You can be a campaign manager and be a leader. You
100%.
can be a cashier. You are the leader of your life. But if you don't step up and take charge of your life, you're leaving your life to chance. And I want to help wake people up to that fact. Be accountable for yourself. Transform your leadership to take charge. Put a plan in place that you feel good about. Not that your parents told you, not that your best friend told you, not that you saw on social media. Wow, that looks great. What do you want? That's what destiny is all about to me.
You know already how aligned we are with regards to
Yes.
self leadership and take accountability. I said to you in our pre chat, leadership isn't about your status and your hierarchy. That's, by the way, one of the reasons why this podcast was born, because I was fed up with
Yes.
this old school view on leadership. And I said, we need to
Yes.
dismantle and talk about it. It's how you show up for yourself, for others every single day, the choices you proactively make, and the impact you have, right?
Yes.
On the world
Yes.
around you. Knowing, however, and appreciating, it's often easier said than done. And that's why in a moment we're going to dive into how can we be the leaders of our own lives. So for people who've never
Yes.
been in touch with any kind of leadership terms, theories, thought about it, what it means for me, what can we do? The one topic that I heard quite frequently was this topic around expectations. And I've also heard that women in your life have been real role models for you when it comes to leadership, which
Yeah.
is wonderful. It's great
Yes.
to hear. And at the same time, even when my grandmother would say to me, you have a real talent, use it.
Yes.
While this is an incredibly encouraging and empowering statement, there's also a connection to certain expectations. Because what she sees as a talent in me might not be the greatest talent I see in myself, or how
Yes.
she believes I should put it into action. I might have a different view on that. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about expectations that you held that
Yes.
you may have needed to challenge yourself, throughout your life.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it well. The advantage I had, at least from my great grandmother. By the way, I was on a panel once where, I was on with a CEO and a COO and a CFO, and they asked us who were our leadership role models, and they all talked about famous business people. I talked about my grandmother, my great grandmother, and
Yeah.
specifically those two, because of exactly what you just said. Neither of them even went to high school. They both had very low level jobs in society, but they carried themselves with tremendous respect. They demanded that people saw them and they helped people. And so they were leaders in the community. Everyone looked up to them in the community, and so did I. So when I would hear from them, for my great grandmother in particular, she would say, no one is better than you, but you're not better than anybody else. You have to step up and do something. Make sure you educate yourself and do something. What she didn't say was, you have to do this. She never said, you need to own your own company. You need to be a mayor. You need to be the governor. I want you to do. She just said, get your education and do something. So that left it up to me. The one thing that was clear, though, from those three, I had to get my education. So that was, not really negotiable. And so what I would see is I had others, my siblings, my cousins, that didn't get their education. So there was a lot of pressure that I felt on me to make sure I went on to college. And so as I started thinking about, okay, if the expectation is I have to go, I mean, I don't know about in Europe, but in the United States, college is extremely expensive. It's very, very expensive. And so my whole thing at the time was, okay, that is non-negotiable. I feel that expectation. How can I do it in a way that my parents don't have to pay for it? Because my mother was saying, I'll work 3 jobs. Like I remember her saying that many times, I'll work 3 jobs to make sure you go to college and go to a good college. So I knew that, okay, I better figure out a way to pay for this. I don't want my mom working 3 jobs. So I started playing sports. I was pretty good at football. I was a big guy. I'm like 6 feet 5 inches tall, like 230 pounds in high school. So like literally I'm about the same size now that I was in high school. So that worked. And I was able to get a college scholarship and play in a big time university. But that's where the expectations started feeling a little different, because I started getting a lot of attention from a lot of people in my family and outside my family that I could play professional football and I should be focused on that. That should be my goal. And that did start to become embedded a little bit as an expectation that I had. And I remember um, never really challenging it, just thinking, okay, if that's what everyone feels, man, I could do that. I want to do that. But then I started having some injuries and I had some issues, and I write about this in my book. And it came to a point where I had to really challenge myself and ask the question, is that what you really want? And the answer was no, that's not what I wanted. And I had to make the call to give that up. And that disappointed a lot of people, but it didn't disappoint me. I immediately felt a freedom, a big weight lifted off my shoulders to now do what I wanted to do, to now set the path that I wanted in my life. And it was one of the happiest decisions I've ever made. Now, did it linger for a while? When I would, see some of my old teammates and watch it, yes, of course, I'm human. Of course it would. Are there still times I think back and I'm like, man, what if I would have kept doing playing? But right away, I'm like, yeah, but I probably would have met my wife. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have had the career I had. And I probably would be limping worse than I am today. So pretty quickly, I get away from it. But I had to make that decision. No one else could make that for me. And that to me is when I talk about creating your own destiny, envisioning what it can be, and then building a plan around it, it starts with spending time with yourself and confronting those tough questions. That's what I had to do. I had to ask myself the tough question, do I really want to do this? Then I had to ask other questions. Okay, well, what am I going to do when people look down at me because I gave this up? I quit. Are they going to call me a quitter? What am I going to do about that? What am I going to do when the coaches, tell all the teammates, my teammates, and say that I let everyone down? What am I going to do? Am I gonna cry? What am I gonna move forward? Is this really what I want to do? Or did I let someone else kind of put this on me? And is it because I'm not tough enough? Is it because I don't care enough? These are not easy questions for a man who's playing football with his teammates to ask himself. But I had to ask those questions to me, not with someone else, in a room by myself with me. And then ultimately, can I accept that this decision, that there's going to be some negative fallout, and I'm going to maybe have some difficult feelings about it. But the bottom line is, it's my decision, and I'm going to set my path from this point forward. And once I made that call, like I said, the weight was lifted off. One of the things I knew is, because I'm always like, all right, you can quit, you can fail, you can lose. Those are all learning opportunities. Doesn't mean you're a quitter. It doesn't mean you're a loser. Doesn't mean you're a failure. It means those things happen at a point in time. What did you do to learn from them? Right away, the first thing I started thinking, all right, those are some bad things. What are the great things? Well, I'm a good student. How much better of a student could I be if I didn't have to worry about football? Could I never get a B or any grade lower than an A again if I didn't have football? I didn't have any clubs I was a part of. Could I be a part of some clubs? I didn't do any extracurricular work with my professors. Could I do that? I wasn't able to do internships. All of a sudden, like, man, this is definitely the way I need to go. So we have to immediately understand there's no such thing as quitting. There's no such thing as failing. There's no such thing as losing. Those are all learning opportunities for us to pivot, learn what we did that we can learn to move forward and take the action to make it happen. So that's kind of what I would tell you was one of the seminal moments for me where expectations were really heavy. And I had to make the call to say, that's not for me.
And that was a story that really stuck with me, because you describe it quite vividly in the book, how the coach called you as well. And he called you out for, you are not injured, come on and play the game and join in, and you want to be a team player and all of that shebang. And there was a real battle that I felt, at least, between this is my passion, right? And this is what I'm supposed to do. But actually, I'm not really feeling this passion. And I need to hold up this honest mirror and this constant tension back and forth. This is how I perceived it. And it really resonated with so many stages in my life. And I think it was a similar thing here with your coach, actually. What happened in my case, I wouldn't say in every situation where I changed path, but in some of them, there was an outside kick. Let it be a role being made redundant. Let it be, I don't know, a breakup in my personal life that kind of gave me this
Mhm.
wake up call to say, okay, what do I really want to do in my life and how do I want to live it? And I always call it this lovely kick in the butt, right?
Mm.
That life sometimes offers you when you're
Yes.
already focusing quite a lot on, is that it?
Yes.
So I wonder as to whether you had a bit of a kick in the butt in this situation as well. And the second part of the question is around, so what was then, you asked yourselves all of these questions with regards to, could I be an A or B student,
Yeah.
clubs and whatnot. But we don't always have the next part of our path aligned and thought through. And in particular, when I'm in my 20s, or when I was in my 20s, I wasn't ready yet to say, okay, this is it. That's what it's going to be.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how did you then go about that next stage?
Yes. Yeah. And the kick in the butt, I didn't go into the details of that, but it definitely was very emotional kick in the butt when your toughness is questioned, when your commitment is questioned. And, I was injured. I had played through injuries before. I talk about in the book, my knee was swollen 3 times the size of a normal knee the season before. And the only way I could even walk was they had to drain the fluid off of my knee before the games. And that's how I was able to play.
Wow.
But as soon as the game was over the next day, it would go back and I barely could walk.
Mm.
So I did that. I played with a broken finger. I played with a cast on my hand. And so I can go through the injuries, but you know, when it came down to where I could not perform because I was injured, and the coach publicly in front of my teammates questioned my toughness. There's no bigger kick in the butt than that for a football player, for them to question your toughness and commitment in front of your teammates.
Yeah.
And that was hurtful. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It
Mhm.
was very hurtful. But that was what I needed. I needed something to make that call and to talk to myself because I hadn't done that. I just kept doing what I thought I should do. And so to your point, then what next? And it really, I knew right away, like I said, that based on that decision, there were a lot of things I could do way better than I was doing by focusing. But one of the other things I did is I immediately went and spoke to a couple of the administrators of the university because I'm like, all right, I don't know where the coach is going to go with this. So let me go get some allies, right? That's another important thing about me is I'm always building allies and making connections. And I knew the head basketball coach who was legendary at the school. Everybody knew him, and one of the assistant athletic directors. So I met with them that very next day when I knew the coach was telling everyone that I quit. And I told them what happened. And their response was really ironic in terms of how it felt because my coach, who had bragged about me being an academic All-America and a 3-time academic All-Big Ten and holding me up, but then when I couldn't play, cast me aside. These guys immediately said, that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm.
You are the type of role model that we need. When it comes to a student athlete, you're the definition of that. They built me back up. They said, don't worry, there's nothing he can do. You keep going to class. You've put in 4 years. That's all. And you did that. And you played a tough sport. We appreciate what you've done for this university. That was awesome when you had that kind of support. But I wouldn't have heard that if I wouldn't have had the courage to go to those guys. They could have said something different. I didn't know what they were going to say, but I knew that I needed to start talking to people and trying to figure out where support was or not. So that helped me in terms of reinforcing to me that I was on the right track. So at that point, I started focusing on my studies and I knew what I wanted my degree to be. I knew how I wanted to hit it, but it really wasn't until a few years later, after I graduated with my master's degree, I decided to go back and get my master's degree at the same university. And when me and my wife were going to get married, and up to that point, I had a plan, but it wasn't the most defined plan. And that's when I remember sitting down before we got married and saying, you know what, it's probably a good idea to draft a life plan of where I want things to go so I could sit down with my wife and we can see, does this make sense? What do you want to do? what is your plan, so that we make sure that we're on the same page and support each other. And when I laid out that plan, I made it a lot more specific than I initially thought it was going to be. But I thought it was important to lay it out to make sure that I knew what I wanted, where I was going. And I took all those learnings that I went through, that kick in the butt I got playing football, like I said, and learning that, you know what? Yeah, I got kicked in the butt, but I also went back and thought, what could I have done different? Yeah, I was injured. I couldn't have changed that. But like I said, I could have been a better leader. I could have influenced my teammates better. I didn't do that. I took that accountability and said that you did that you did not take advantage of the opportunity you had to help that team. So part of my plan was achieve these great things for myself, but at every level, what am I doing to help other people? If I'm not helping others, then it's not worth the plan that I've laid out. My well-being is not going to be fulfilled. So it's all about, yes, striving for success, but uplifting as many people as possible. And I made that very specific in my plan.
How do you know that at this stage? I was still going back to it. You are in your 20s still.
Yeah.
And I heard when you said, initially my life plan wasn't quite as well planned out.
Yeah.
But you are already really clear on your purpose. You're already really clear
Yes.
on, okay, what are the steps I need to take to plan it out? And you are highly reflective and aware of your learnings from, those kicks in the butt or any mistakes
Yes.
that happen in life. So that's for me a huge level of maturity as well that you demonstrated there. So help me
Yeah.
understand that.
It's hard to really put into words, except to just say that going through the experience I talked about, it definitely was transformational. And I talk about that as kind of beginning my transformation, is getting to that point where I had to make that decision. And I talked about, how the coach made me feel and all those things. That it makes you grow up when you have to sit down and really think about what you want. And then, the other big thing that really made me grow up, there are three incidents. The one was quitting football. The second was my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, told me she was pregnant. And immediately, I realized, okay, you got to step up here and have a plan. What are you going to do? So that was a big seminal moment. But the third one really was when I started working in the United States. My career started in the state of Iowa, which is kind of a rural place. I had really only been there to play a football game, didn't know anything about it. And within the first year I was there, um, I started seeing the impact that I could have on people by taking the learnings of. Remember, I said in football, I didn't do as much as I could have. I just said I'll be a role model. Here, I decided, no, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to actively go to people. I'm going to make myself accessible to them. I'm going to go and go to them and make sure they know what I'm all about. And I'm going to show people love. I'm going to show them. I'm going to trust that everybody's a good person. I'm going to show them love. And initially, a lot of people, and I told several stories in the book that are pretty incredible transformation stories, but generally, everyone there, which on average, they were about 45, 50 years old on average, most of them. I was 24, 25 at the time. So I'm a lot younger. I'm kind of their boss, but I'm treating them like respected people, not as subordinates, as respected people. And it was just weird that they had not experienced that. And so the more I saw their reaction of surprise, and they kind of were a little like confused, but as time went on, you could start to see that they really enjoyed and liked the fact that I cared about them. My job was to make their lives better. That's how I saw it. And so I was kind of an engineer at the time, and I would do everything I could to make their lives better. I'd be out on the production floor every day as much as possible. And really, it was when the guy who was the manager resigned, and the employees there got together and decided to put a petition together to make me the manager. And that really was probably the big thing that took me over the edge to say, wow, I really can have an impact on people. And I remember I had a really good friend of mine who was part of the employee base, but he was younger. He was one of the young guys there, a little bit older than me, but we're close in age. And so he and I would play basketball together. I remember the night I found out about this petition, and it called the manager called me, the kind of the director of the plant called to see if I was interested. And I was not, because I didn't think I was ready. I was very young. I barely just got out of college. And I told my friend, and he said, hey, I heard about the petition. I didn't get involved in it because I didn't want people to think that I was influencing it. But he said, I'm going to tell you, you're a great engineer, but you're a better leader. Everyone sees you as a leader, the kind of leader we need here. We need you to lead us now. He said, you make your own decision. But he said, I don't want you to not take the job because of me. If I cause you to have to deal with me, that's on me. That's what he told me. He said, you take this job. We need you right now. And that was when I immediately realized, okay, this is my calling. I can help people simply by being my authentic self. By being confident in being my authentic self, not only will uplift people, but get great results. Mm. And that's kind of where, it just clicked to me through evidence. Again, a learned missed opportunity on what I could have done with my teammates that I didn't do, to now I actually I proactively went out to be the leader. Not the leader, I tell you what to do, you do. Yeah. No, I'm here to support and help you. And just from that, I saw people's whole attitudes change. And that's when I really realized the impact I could make, and what really allowed me to say, here's what I want to do long term. It provided the clarity that I needed to lay out my life plan.
Now, when you said, and I knew this was my calling, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how did you notice it in this moment? What was, if you want to call it that, your embodied reaction to realizing this moment? Because I want to help listeners also understand how they can tap into their inner data, their knowledge that lies somewhere inside them, but sometimes needs to be unlocked.
Yes. It's a feeling that you have. And I think that, it's kind of like, I can tell you, when I would think about, like what people would say, oh, you should play professional football. I think about it. It seemed okay, but I never, like you said, have goosebumps. I never was like, yeah. When I talked to my friend that day, and he told me, you are the leader we need. I mean, that was like, man. And when I saw the looks on people's faces, when I would go to their area and talk to them, help them, that made me feel great. That is the advice I would give people. If you're doing something that doesn't make you feel great, that I didn't want to, I love my family, so I would go home, but there were times I didn't want to go home because I wanted to, I could have one more conversation. I can go and talk to this one more guy. It was a 3-shift operation. So let me just wait till the third shift guys come in. Maybe I could come back. Let me go home and eat dinner. Maybe I'll go back at midnight and see how they're doing. Mm. What about on the weekend? Let me go on the weekend and make sure. I didn't want to leave because I felt that every person I talked to, I was doing something to feed them individually. Mm. And it made me feel great. It's kind of like this, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's this saying we have around Christmas, where it's better to give than to receive. It was a term you always hear. I don't know if that's always true, but for me, I really felt like that giving of myself and seeing the impact it made me feel great. And if you don't have that feeling with what you're doing or what you're thinking you want to do in the future, then you shouldn't be doing it. It's like having apathetic compliance versus passionate commitment. Mm. And there's a lot of people who are doing things in their career that they're apathetically complying to. They're just kind of, okay, it happened this way, I'll just keep doing this, or this is what I was expected to do, I'll just keep doing this. And you should have passionate commitment to what you're doing. Passion is strong. You get goosebumps. It makes you want to cry with happiness. It makes you never want to leave and stop doing that. And it makes you the first thing in the morning, you want to do it again. That's what I felt. And that's what I encourage people to really spend time with yourself. We talk about meditating. Yeah, meditating is important, to help you manage stress. But something that people don't do is just thinking about yourself and about your future. And I really encourage people, take 30 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. If you can't do that, 30 minutes a week, just pick a day where you just go in a room and think about you. What do you want? How do you feel about your life right now? Are you fulfilled? Are you happy? Where do you want to be? If you can't think 30 years down the road or 40 years like I did, 5 years, where do you want to be in 5 years? And do you feel happy about that? If you don't, if you're not excited, if you're not passionate, then think about what do you really, really want to do until you get that feeling. This is something I'm so passionate about because I've spent
Exactly.
so much time with people. I mean, I've spent over 100,000 hours talking, just spending time with people, 50,000 hours just in just one-on-ones with over 10,000 people. So if you know about Malcolm Gladwell's rule of 10,000 hours, I mean, I've done that at least 5 times over when it comes to people, with 10,000 different people from all over the world. I can tell you 90% of them, 90% could not answer the question, where do you want to be in the future? What do you have for your plan for your life in 10 years? But they couldn't answer it because there's living day to day. People live day to day, week to week. Think about yourself. If you don't do it, who will?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I want to really throw in a few more reflections on what you said, because I don't know if I'm equally passionate about it, but I'm very passionate about that topic, but can't quite top your level, I think. But here we go. The first one is, you were very aware of, I want to be this leader. I want to have this positive impact on other people. It doesn't have to be the same for anybody out there listening to us right now. For some of you, the real purpose might be being connected in a community, for example, and contributing. It could be that you do an analytical role and you are so passionate about data, you just love it. For others, it's about, fulfilling a more traditional career trajectory with regard to stepping upwards, whatever that means for you. For others, and that's a big one for me, full disclosure, I've always been this one who had a career plan, right? Where do I want to go? What's the next level? It felt like a relief the first time I said, here are my income goals. Okay, that's fine. But they are basically there to make sure I can cut down in the time I spend with certain work, because I can't wait to get to the football training with my son, or to take him to judo and to watch him and to be that mom I never thought I would be, who stands there and is like, hey, come on, left, right, center. But I love that. And I don't rush through the weekend thinking, oh, what's the kind of work you still need to do to be ready for next week? It looks differently to each and every one of us.
Absolutely.
As much as you can, tune out those expectations from society that often build stories in our heads that might not be our real stories. So that's really an important one. And
important.
The second reflection is, become really aware of the impact that life will have on you if you stay in this place of living day by day. And resentment, for example, building up, because that's something I see more and more in our crazy world. And I think that contributes to our crazy world, is that we start to become so unhappy with our lives. We start to blame others for it and seek the solutions from certain people in this world. So we build a codependence, A, and B, resentment goes against everything we just talked about, in particular community support of each other, and, fulfilling potential together, as big as it sounds. So think about those effects and the risks of not taking even small steps in our lives.
Absolutely. If you don't have a plan, and you don't have hope, you leave yourself really no chance. And if you have a plan, but you don't have any hope, you put your life to chance. You leave it to chance. Hopefully something will work out. What you need is a plan, and you have to have hope. You have to have both of them together to give yourself the best opportunity to achieve what you want in life. But the key back to it is what you want, not what I say, not what Kathleen says. It's back to what do you want in life. And so, I think everything you said is right on. And I encourage people, again, spend time with yourself. What I described was what Donzel decided he wanted. That should, I have a little podcast that I did. It's very short. It's 5 to 6 minutes per episode, only 5 episodes in season one. It's called the Make Your Destiny Happen Petite Podcast. But it's very short. And I just take one lesson from the book, and I bring it to life with lessons that I learned from my dad, who I mentioned passed away earlier this year. So it's kind of a tribute to him. But one of the key things I thought was so interesting about my dad is that he loved his life. He was very happy at the end of his life, very content with his life. But he and I were drastically different. The thing that I got from him that was so powerful was he never, ever tried to tell me to do things like he did. He never, ever tried to lead me to follow him, follow the way he did things. He made it clear from early, my earliest memories was he had his way of doing things. And the message was, it's okay for him to do things his way and me to do things my way. It's one of the most powerful things that a parent can do for you, is not kind of self-determine what they think you should do. The second big lesson I got from him was it's okay to have vastly different views on life. I am a very, kind of passionate guy. I clearly had a plan that I wanted, early on. You read, I had a life plan. I strive for excellence. I have 3 degrees. I mean, my dad didn't care anything about any like that kind of thing. My dad was a guy that he just wanted to be peaceful and just chill. That's what he wanted to do. His view of retirement was sitting down all day and chilling. I could not do that. But that was his definition of success for his life. And it's okay for him to have one way and me to have another way.
Absolutely.
It's about how do we feel each individually about our lives. And what I love so much, my dad, when the last time we got to see him, when he was still, able to, interact, I asked him, Daddy, are you happy with your life? Is there anything I could do for you? Anything you want, anywhere you want to go, anything, you name it, you got it. He said, I don't need anything. I got everything I need right here. I love my life. Just think, if someone asked you that question, everyone out there, did you say the same thing? That there's nothing you want, nothing you need. You're that happy with your life. That's what I'm trying to help people get to. That's not what Kathleen's doing, not what I'm doing. It's what do you want that makes you feel fulfilled, makes you feel happy. That's what we're trying to get at here.
And you mentioned not just the fulfillment and the happiness quite frequently, but also this topic around self-leadership. And
Yes.
you indicated loads of elements of self-leadership already, right? Taking action, taking charge. Now, I appreciate not everybody is in a set space to think every day about what do I want? Do I feel happy? Being quite reflective about it. And I say it truly without judgment. Now, I wonder, how can we support people with their first step they can take to start to lead themselves, in brackets, differently?
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We all have to recognize that there are those among us who are in very difficult situations. Maybe they're in a very abusive relationship. Maybe they are in a situation where they're being controlled in a way that doesn't feel like they have freedom or agency to do what they want to do. We have to recognize that there are people in those situations. And what I try to say is, this is why one of the reasons why I kind of wrote the book and why I try to do the things I do is to influence others to make positive change that eventually helps those people. We all can do little things to help so that those among us who don't have agency can be freed up in some way, shape, or form. The more of us that are making positive change out there, the better the opportunities will be for those who can't do it themselves. So I just wanted to put that out there because we have to recognize that. But one of the key things I would just say, one of the first steps people can take, and I kind of mentioned this before, is just take time to think what you want for yourself. And one of the things I did is, again, I envisioned, where do I want my life to be in 40 years? How do I want to feel at that time? What do I want my family situation to be? What do I want to be financially? What community impact would I have? These are questions I literally wrote down that I wanted to sit down and think through. And then I wanted to put myself in that time and think, am I proud of that? Am I proud of myself after 40 years? And for those of you who can't think 40 years down the road, I get it.
Mm.
Think about 1 year. 1 year from now, where do you want to be? And how do you feel about that? Ask yourself those questions. Am I better off financially or not? Where's my career? How's my family doing? And then how do I feel? What impact am I making to society? Ask yourself questions like that. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing I'd ask you to think about doing is, Kathleen mentioned this earlier, the world we live in is crazy and things are happening every nanosecond. And there's a lot of negative reinforcement out there that holds us back. But one of the biggest things that holds a lot of people back, maybe not everyone, is the fact that we're on our phones all the time. And a lot of it is social media, just scrolling and things of this nature. Look, the internet's great. We have all information that's ever been recorded is available at our fingertips at any moment. And anything you want to know is available to you, which is great for people who like to learn. But it also provides an environment for you to get sucked in and feel worse about yourself because there's trolls, there's AI bots, there's all sorts of information that reinforces to you negative things about yourself. What difference does it make for me to move forward? What I would say is, hey, what if you did this? The average American, I don't know about the world, but the average American spends on it 2.5 hours on their phone, on social media, and only about 15 minutes a day reading for self-improvement. I would say if we could probably say 30 minutes for any self-development, whether that's physical fitness, reading, learning a language, anything to make themselves better. What if you reverse that? What if you just took 1 month and said, I'm going to take the time I was spending just on social media scrolling and things of that nature. I'm going to turn that time into time I'm developing myself. I'm reading, I'm learning another language, I'm practicing public speak, whatever it is that you want to get better at. What if you did that for 1 month? Then at the end of the month, then gauge, are you better off or not? It's a great indicator of having a plan, being very purposeful about activating that plan, and then seeing just after 1 month what difference it makes.
Mm.
That's what I'd like you to do. If you can do one of those things, think about your future, just ask yourself those questions. And then, like I said, if you don't spend a lot of time on social media, fine. Just take then 1 hour a day, maybe 30 minutes a day, just saying, I'm going to develop a plan for me to get better. I'm working on something for me to get better every day. Try that and see by the end of the week what difference it's made.
And obviously, you've got to stick with it to give it a fair shot, which again,
Yes.
isn't always that easy, depends on the steps you want to take. Now, my assumption here is that you had moments within your life plan where
Yeah.
you may have forgotten about the plan, or you may have forgotten about elements of it, or they didn't quite go the way you wanted them to go. So how do you usually get back on track? Or maybe that's not the right step to take.
Yeah. No, great. There are a couple of instances. I'd say I don't have it where I forgot about it. But there were times where things didn't go well or I went off track.
Yeah.
One was, I talk a lot about personal well-being and balance in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very important to me to sustain the energy to continue to move forward. For me, balance, part of the things is at least staying physically fit to some extent. And there was a point where I lost track. I just got off track because I made some choices of things I wanted to do. I'd just gotten this big job. I was working on an MBA. We had little kids. We had just got married. And so all those things, I had to find a way and time to prioritize. And so I prioritized those things, which is important. My family, my kids. Just started this job. I have to make a big impact. I got to make sure I do well on this degree I'm trying to earn. And so what slipped is I stopped taking care of myself. And I ended up gaining like 70 or 80, well, how much did I gain? Yeah, like 90 pounds in the course of about 3 years. and got up to 315 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilos, maybe like what 150 kilos or something like that,
Yeah,
160
kind of
kilos,
stuff. Mm.
somewhere in that range. When my average was about 220 pounds. So it was not good. And my health suffered, my well-being suffered. I wasn't as effective as I should be. And it took, kind of, me I actually went for another job, and I didn't pass the physical because I was too big, too heavy, and there was a risk, high blood pressure and everything like that. And again, I could have been depressed about that, but I said, this is the learning. And so I got to do something about it. I have to take action. And so sometimes it's, what goal can you set to hold yourself accountable over short order? Well, my wife was about 3 months pregnant at the time with her third child. And I said to myself, look, if she's got to go through that physical craziness, which having a baby
Mm.
is unbelievable, then I can force myself to lose this weight and get in shape so I can help. And so
Mm.
I said, by the time she has this baby, I'm going to lose 60 pounds. That was my initial goal. And so I changed my lifestyle and started doing the right things, and ended up losing 90 pounds in
Wow.
4 months. Before she even had the baby, I lost 90 pounds. And from that point forward, I realized that for me to be the best father I could be, the best husband I could be, and continue to achieve the goals in my life plan, balance was important. I couldn't allow myself to get out of balance again because it would make my well-being suffer, and eventually I would run out of gas, or something not good would happen to me. And so that was the motivation for me to stay on track. Then the other incident I'll tell you about was more of again, a failure. So I did fail. I'm not a failure, but I did fail. And that was that decided to start a business in my hometown. It was a restaurant that we started. And it didn't work, unfortunately. Now there was a lot of circumstances that happened. I'm from Key West, and so we had this great location. It was a great place. I put a lot of passion in it. All the recipes were my partner, who was a chef, sat down with my mom. Over about 4 or 5 months, she taught him how to make the recipes. He converted them to restaurant recipes. I mean, we did. I put a lot of heart and soul. My family was involved. It was my wife was doing the marketing. It was a lot of work, a passionate work. We felt great about it. It was one of those things where you feel I felt really great, to be doing this in my hometown. Unfortunately, Key West is a place where hurricanes come through.
Mhm.
And in the second year we were around, we had the worst hurricane season probably ever. Hurricane Katrina came through, and Hurricane
Yeah.
Rita came through right after that. And tourism dropped like 50% for the next season. And, we just couldn't survive that. Um, but as I look back at that, it wasn't just because of the hurricanes that we failed. There were some bad decisions that I made. And so I learned and went back and debriefed it when I had to make the tough decision to close it. I had to close it, and I had to make that tough call to tell my mom. My mom had done radio commercials for it. My sister had been there. I mean, it was a tough thing that I had to do. Uh, but I realized, okay, it wasn't just the hurricanes. There are decisions I made. And I went through and debriefed it. So what am I going to do to learn from this? Because it cost me a lot of money. I mean, we probably like $1 million that I lost
Wow.
on this thing. So I said, how can I make this the most expensive second MBA that a person could get that's even more
Mhm.
valuable than the first MBA I got? And I learned, and some of the lessons I learned, okay, if you're going to do a business like this, own the building. Better yet, maybe owning real estate's a better investment than a restaurant. The restaurants have a very low success rate. Secondly, if you're going to do any other business, bet on yourself. I didn't do that in this case. Someone else ran it. I was kind of like, the investor, if you will, in the
Yeah.
ideas, but I wasn't there every day. And I was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to bet on myself.
Mm.
So those were the two big learnings: invest in assets and bet on yourself. And that immediately changed my thought process going forward. And the subsequent businesses that I started have been very successful
Mhm.
based on that learning. But was that could I have just given up and said, I failed? Oh, what a bad! I'm not a good guy. Oh my God, I could have done that, but I decided, you know what? Learn from this. What can we do better? Make the tough call,
Yeah.
and don't take the easy way out of saying it was your hurricane's fault. No, it wasn't. There's things I should have done to make this a much more sustainable business than it was. So those are two examples that I was able to put, kind of bring to the fore here today.
And thank you for sharing it. In particular, right at the beginning, when you said, I'm not a failure, I failed in this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Immediately builds distance, perspective. And the growth mindset you've just described, Carol Dweck owns this term, obviously, is really helping us to build resilience and to move forward. Does it always happen like this, in a few minutes? No, it sometimes takes time, as you have described as well. But it helps us deal more effectively with obstacles and with failures that will, by all means, happen in life. And the third point I want to highlight here is why do there always need to be female names for bad weathers? Hurricanes, tornadoes, bad weather fronts. Unbelievable. You should own the good weather.
Yes. Just a bit of now, fortunately, the last couple of bad hurricanes have been more male names, which yes, but yeah, you're right. Some of the bigger ones have been unfortunately female names. That's a funny. I hadn't even thought about that. That's interesting.
I saw, I don't know, a documentary about that actually years and years ago, and the decision was consciously made to change it at some point because it was very, very discriminating. Anyway, one thing we haven't actually talked about, two things that I really want to talk about. The framework or the model, better said, the Destiny Development Delta model, which I am super curious about. And the other topic that feeds into it is the word transformation. Because you mentioned that word a few times, and it was only your book that made me think about the difference between change and transformation. And I think many people will have this light bulb moment after you have shared a little bit more insight into it and some of your metaphors that you are so beautifully using as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the Destiny Development Delta model is basically the outcome of the experiences that I've had as a leader and putting them into place to kind of structure, my life and my leadership. And the model is basically a model that helps you transform your leadership, to envision your destiny, build a life plan, and then take the sustained action to make it a reality for yourself, to make it your reality that you want. And it's made up of really two components. The first is what I call the A attitudes of leadership, which is leadership values, a core set of leadership values that take you down this path of transforming your leadership to take charge of your life. So I've mentioned earlier, be the leader of your life. You are the leader of your life. Where does that start? These A attitudes of leadership help you do that, starting with authenticity and assuredness, knowing who you are, being comfortable with who you are, warts and all. We all have them. We're not perfect. And sometimes we like to bury the parts that aren't so good about ourselves, or some people only focus on the parts that aren't good about themselves. Accept both the good, the bad, things that aren't that great, and be comfortable with it because it's you. Then assuredness, how to believe in yourself, how to have confidence in yourself. Authenticity allows you to stand. Assuredness allows you to stand in the face of adversity, because adversity will come every minute of every day. And then the next step is taking accountability and action, in what I call a proactive accountability, making plans and then doing them, sticking to them. And the third and fourth, or the fourth and fifth, are all about accessibility and adoration, which I mentioned earlier. So, once you've now gotten to know yourself, you're confident in yourself, you're holding yourself accountable, you're taking action. That's all about you. But we all need others in our lives to help us move forward. And that's where being accessible to others and showing love. And I mentioned that earlier, how that's been a big piece of my life plan. So I came up with these based on my experience. And what I love about them is most of the sort of leadership models that I've been through as an executive, which I've been through many, a lot of them have studied successful business people, a group of them, and then boiled down, here are the key things that made them great, made them successful. You should do them. What they miss is that most of these people had very unique circumstances around them that also allowed them to get there. And they tend to always ignore that. And so you can't just take this one thing that Bill Gates did, this one thing that Steve Jobs did, and it's about that, and then tell people to do that. That doesn't work because most people don't have the situation that those guys came up with. Um, but the A attitudes is all about you transforming your leadership to take charge of your life. It's not about do what this person did. It's about get in touch with yourself. And the difference between change and transformation, change the difference in direction. It's adjustments that we make. Change is important, right? So if I have a plan, the plan's not working, like the restaurant, I got to make a change.
Yeah.
I got to change it. I got to do something different. This is where, okay, it's not working. I got to close this down. I got to do something different with business. I got to learn from that and do something different. Transformation is becoming something different than you were before. An example I use with change is like chameleon. A chameleon can change colors. If it's on grass and the grass is green, it's green. If it walks into some dirt or just earth and the earth is brown, it turns brown. It can change, but it's still a chameleon. All it did is making adjustments based on the environment, which is important because if a predator sees it can't find it because it's blending in with the grass, that's a great adjustment that it's made. Right? A transformation is a great example is a caterpillar that's a caterpillar and then enters a chrysalis and emerges as something completely different, a butterfly. And what I try to get people to understand is why most of us can't stay focused on our goals and objectives that we set for our lives is because we see it as change. We see it as us making a change. I'm going to start doing this tomorrow. It's a behavioral change. Transformation is what I try to do with the A attitudes. It's you transforming your leadership. And you do that by, again, being comfortable, learning who you are, getting in touch with yourself authentically, and really going through the process of saying, I'm going to step up and do something and be who I really am. I'm not going to let it be suppressed. I'm going to transform myself and I'm going to be who I am. And that it may be completely different. It may be a subtle change, but it's really, and language is important. It's about becoming something different, changing the way that you are going to behave going forward, not making simple adjustments to environmental factors. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the A attitudes. But then once you've transformed your leadership and you now are taking full accountability as CEO of your life, what do? And that's again where some of these other models fall off. They help you with, okay, try this, do this practice of leadership. But then what do you do now? And that's where the next phase of my model comes in, which is called iLead change. And it really is a roadmap that walks you through what to do. It's made up of Inspire, which basically is about building your life plan. It shows you exactly how to build your life plan. Then it's Light. How do you create a message about your life plan that excites yourself and others to help you? Engage is about engaging other people to be supportive of you helping achieve your life plan, because you're not going to achieve what you want without people's help. And you're not going to be as fulfilled as you'd like to be if you don't help them. Engaging a network of supporters is one of the greatest reasons why I've been successful in my life. I have just a tremendous network of people who are passionate supporters. And then you got to activate your plan, which you mentioned is one of the hardest things to do. That 90% of all New Year's resolutions, people give up on them by the second week of January. The second week, right? Because they probably don't really believe, they haven't transformed their leadership to really believe in themselves and be authentic with themselves. And they don't build a plan to activate it. So we have this whole thing on how to activate your plan and bring it to life. And then D is develop. That's basically understanding that because the world is changing so much, we have to continue to develop ourselves to make sure we can make those adjustments like that chameleon. When things change, when the wind blows different, that we can make adjustments with our plan. We have to continue to develop ourselves. So it's a roadmap that tells you, hey, if you've now transformed your leadership with the A attitudes, now follow this roadmap in an iterative way, and you will achieve your objectives. But you have to transform and clearly know what you want in life. It can't be what someone else told you. It's got to be what you want. Because as long as you're following something that's not your authentic plan, your authentic destiny dream, what you want, then again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. You're going to apathetically comply which means when things get hard, you're going to stop. If you do have passion, if it's really what you want, you will passionately commit. And yes, you'll have to re-up and you'll have to keep yourself going, but you will find the fire to make it happen. And so that's what the model's all about.
And I love the model. So kudos to you for developing it and bringing your insights in. It is literally for anybody in this world, which
Yes.
I also love about it. It's not just for the C-suite level. Those steps are relevant for anybody. And the third thought about it is also around, there's a repeat to it, like an upward cycle of learning, of
Yes.
becoming wiser. And if we think about our own life experiences, right, we transform on multiple occasions.
Yes.
And I think a key, it's almost like a frame for me around this framework, is curiosity. When things get
Yes.
tough and you're like, who am I now? I don't know how
Yes.
you felt after your children were born, but after mine, I only have one. But after he was born, I was like, who the heck am I? Who's this person? What's going on? What did I have to say goodbye to? And what can I welcome now? And it was like in a midlife crisis. That's how it might have felt. And I only realized after going through the mess of those emotions, now I become this butterfly again.
Yes.
But it took me some time to literally cocoon in and to step into this world of understanding and analyzing and kind of asking myself important questions with curiosity. And that triggered then an excitement about who's to come. What's this next phase? And now after I've gone through a few transformations, I'd say, I know there will be more. And that's cool. And let's see what this person or who this person is that's going to emerge.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing again is spending time with yourself. Spending time with yourself to accept that transformation and know that that's what's needed versus just incremental change. Again, incremental change is important.
Yeah.
When again, the road changes ahead, you gotta decide: do I stay straight or I turn? I mean, those are decisions you have to make. As the environment changes and business gets tougher, you have to make adjustments to your business plan. So we have to be able to adjust, especially in the world that we're in, where things change so fast. We don't know. AI is exploding. There's so much tremendous investment in this. We all have to stay abreast and understand, because anything can be changed at any moment. Things you get information. Sometimes you have to run, is this real or is it not real? Is it AI created? What's going on here? So we have to always be thinking and preparing and learning and staying ahead of the curve so that we can adjust and make changes as appropriate. But we have to always remember, transform ourselves. And it's an iterative process. Sometimes you may go through it once and it's good, but there are other times where big changes happen in your life, big things. And you have to really go back and say, okay, where am I? How do I feel about that? Am I still feeling good about myself?
Yeah.
You have to ask those questions on a regular basis. I do. I remember I used to talk to myself all the time when I was a kid. I remember my mom saying, people are going to think you're crazy. I'm like, I always remember, why do people think that? Isn't it good to talk to yourself? That's how I thought. And so I always isn't it a good thing to question yourself? Like, is that the right thing? Should I be doing that? Should I not be doing that? What do I think about that? I think that's a healthy thing. So to me, continuing to have those conversations with yourself, continuing to make sure that you feel good, you feel confident. Avoid apathetic compliance. Apathy means you really don't care. And when you're complying to something, that means you're complying to other people's rules.
Yeah.
That never is going to make you stay focused on a plan. You'll never be able to stay energized and passionate. We want to have commitment to what you want, and it has to be passion. That's where you want to transform to. So that's what the transformation is all about. It's about continuing to be comfortable with who you are and what you want and not feeling bad about going after it. And everyone should have that freedom, that agency for themselves. That's why I feel so passionate about it. That's why I'm passionately committed to it.
And I want to say these are the perfect final words for this show. And yet I do have one more question for you. Over a year ago, you kind of materialized the next step on your life plan, right? To leave
Yes.
the corporate world or the
Yes.
big roles and to step into the space where you even more purposefully cater and are in service of others.
Yes.
And again, kind of having gotten to know you a little bit more, I have a feeling there's something else on your life plan pretty soonish. So, what is the next step?
It's one of those things where in my life plan, I initially had that I would start this business, and then after about 5 years, I would run for office, political office. Um, but I did that earlier than I planned. I actually did that back in 2018. It was a great experience, but that was one. So I talk about making changes to your plan. And although that was something I had laid out back in those days, 30 years ago when I first made my plan, that experience going through it made me think I may not want to do that. Now I haven't totally closed the door, but based on the experience of running for office, yes, I was able to really make a huge difference with people and really energize a lot of people. But I felt that the political system in the U.S. is just so broken, and unfortunately, it attracts the wrong people because there's so many bad things go along with it. So it attracts people who are tend to be narcissistic, and to be in that environment did not feel good. So I go back to it's got to make you feel good. I thought it would make me feel good, but it didn't. And I just felt like I could make a much bigger impact without having this negativity around me and without being what I felt in a box. To me, that put me in a box that I didn't like. And so that was the one thing that was next. And I've said, I don't think I want to do that. So what I would say is I want to take what I'm doing now and really make it as big as I can. I really want to, go on a speaking tour and go all around the world and talk to people and help reignite hope in their lives and the thought process they could do anything they want as long as they get in touch with themselves, transform their leadership, envision their destiny, put together a plan, they can make it happen. And one thing you mentioned earlier, most of the examples I have in the book, not all, but most, are things that I did in business. This model works whether you are trying to run a business and you need it. Basically, it's all about envisioning what the vision of your business should be, putting a plan together and making it happen. Or if you want to be the CEO of your own life, whether it's the CEO of your company or the CEO of your life, it works the same. So how can I take this and make it as big as I possibly can? Because I'd like people to take charge of their lives, but I'd also want business owners to understand you can achieve tremendous results. And no one can doubt if they see the examples in my book, I got tremendous results. And you can make a positive difference in people's lives. You don't have to, it's not mutually exclusive. They actually work well together. So that's what I really want to do. Make this as big as I can, get the message as around the world as much as I possibly can.
And what a great purpose that is. And I wonder, how can people connect with you before you travel around the world and speak to everybody you can grab? Where can they find you?
Yes. Yeah. So please check out our website. It's www.destinydelta.com, or you can simply type in the name of the book, Make Your Destiny Happen, .com. It'll take you there as well. So go there. We've got, in fact, we have a book giveaway that's going on right now. You can enter for a free book. We had a webinar last week that you can take a listen to, watch the webinar. We've got kind of, if you want to download some free content, we got some free content that kind of takes you through some of what I talked about with the A attitudes of leadership, some of those values. There's a template that you can download that it kind of help start that process for you in terms of some of the reflections that I mentioned. So please check that out. You can also find my podcast there. Again, the Make Your Destiny Happen Petite podcast is also there. And you can message me there. I mean, our information is there. We read all the emails. We get back to people. We'd love to hear from you. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure that all of those tags are available in the show notes so that if you want to find me, you can find me. If you just can't remember any of that, There's
Sure.
not that many Donzel Leggetts in the world. There's me and my son. So if you type in Donzel Leggett, you're gonna find me. I guarantee you.
Thank you so, so much. And as you highlighted, they will all be in the show notes. Now, what I would say is you may want to connect with Donzel through LinkedIn or some of his webinars,
Yes.
because as we have heard, he doesn't spend too much time on social. He develops himself while other people
Yes.
are scrolling. So don't forget about
Yes.
this. However, I really wish for everybody to connect with you, with your work, with all
Yes.
the good stuff you're doing that's truly needed in this world as well. So come to his talks and contact him and get in touch and see how you can take a first step in your life to make your destiny happen. And as always, what I would love to know from you is, what is the first step you're going to take? Small, large, whatever it is, we'd love to know and learn from you as well. And sometimes it helps to have a little bit of accountability, a little buddy on your side to
Yes.
help you with it. But for now, I just want to say, Donzel, your energy, your passion is contagious. And I feel
Oh,
like
great.
I'm leaving this conversation with some fresh thinking and a lot of energy myself. And I hope so will the listeners. So thank you so much for it.
Thank you, Kathleen. Like I said, what you're doing with this platform is wonderful. It is such a pleasure talking to you and an honor. And you do such a great job of carrying a conversation that feels natural and it feels just easy to talk. So I really do hope that the listeners got some good messages out of it. I certainly did just in talking to you. You uplifted my day as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And keep the good work going. For now, I'm going to say, have a wonderful day, evening, week, wherever you are in this world. And, think optimistically. That's what I want to say. And take good care of each other. Bye bye, everyone.